I'm here with Roz Morris. That's Roz. Hi! In the wonderful Surrey Hills. It's absolutely fantastic. Beautiful place, and we have a beautiful sunny day, and we're here at the stable block. There goes our horse. Is that Brandy again? No. Oh, Brandy's going up. There we are, in the middle of the stable blocks with the farriers. How fantastic is that? That's Roz's horse there, that's Byron. Byron's big, and he's 30, which is pretty amazing, isn't it? Is that right? What's the normal lifespan of a horse, Roz? Do you know? That's a question I don't really know.
Really, it depends on fate. They've managed to have accidents or things finish them off before they get to what would be real old age. But that is very old, especially for a big horse.
Yeah, yeah.
It wouldn't be very old for a pony now,
yeah.
But something of that size.
So he's a big horse. So how tall is Byron?
He's 17 and a half hands.
17 and a half hands. Now, a hand is 4 inches.
That's
so
right.
70 inches at the shoulder. Is that right?
Don't ask me, I can't do head maths.
470, so 2 17's 34, so 4's at 68 plus the halves, which is 2 inches, so it's 70 inches. Wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
I'll stand next to him at some point, but as you can see, he's having his tootsies done.
I know, let's have move around here slightly and watch skilled craftsmen at work, which is always lovely to see. Absolutely fantastic. So the shoe doesn't cover the whole foot, obviously.
No.
And in the process of it, you actually sort of scoop out the middle of the hoof a bit to clean it out and stuff?
Just cut away the excess foot, the scroll.
Scrow?
The scroll, it grows foot.
Oh, right.
It's like the fingernails.
Yeah, here's fingernails, Roz and fingernails.
My fingernails.
Not as big as Byron's
and a bit
hoof.
dirty
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah.
So the horse's hoof sort of grows out a dead bit like that,
Yeah.
all the way around in a crescent shape.
Yeah.
And it grows all the time, so they have to be trimmed. If they didn't have shoes on, it would wear down more gradually, but the shoes stop it actually wearing down at all. So
Right.
if they wear shoes, they need constant attention.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually every 4 weeks. Also, they might not move entirely evenly, so they sometimes need to have their feet shaped so that the biomechanics of their movement is better the way they're built. So if they walk a bit kind of on the outside,
Yeah.
imagine what your shoes might look like if you do that.
Gotcha, yeah.
And eventually it wears down, down, down. You get more and more out of alignment.
So it's a bit like having orthopaedic soles on your shoes.
Farriery is actually an orthopaedic
Oh, is
practice
it really?
as well. Is all that all right, by the way? Yeah.
I've know, are the nails, are they made of copper?
They're copper coated.
Copper coated?
Not all nails are, just these ones that we use.
Because that's a fascinating detail, actually. So why are they copper coated?
They're antimicrobial.
Ah, right, okay.
So it stops all the bacteria and stuff and everything like that around the nails.
Ah, didn't know that. Wow.
And here's something else. Look at my fingernail again. The horse's foot has got a lot of live tissue in it, or just like this.
Yeah.
And then it's got a relatively small amount of dead tissue that you can put a nail through.
Oh, okay.
So,
right, now that's a good point, because if it was live tissue, you'd go, ow.
yeah, yeah. And it also means that under there, I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
the shape of it.
Yeah.
Just under that sole is,
Yeah.
is a lot of sort of live soft tissue full of blood vessels. It can
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
pain, they can get bruised. So it's actually quite a delicate instrument. Horses.
Right. Crikey, yeah. That's amazing when you can see the natural horn colour. And we were noticing before we started the camera, look guys, as I've said before, white leg, pale hoof, yeah? Dark leg, dark hoof.
Also, for real nerds,
nerds.
This has got markings on, and they're usually sort of unique to each horse. So,
really?
yes, if you've got a right foot, this is a plot point you could use in a story. That a horse's feet might have quite distinctive markings if it's got a white foot.
Oh, I see.
And if you come around this side,
Hang on. Old knees. Sorry, Byron. Steering wheel. I'll show Jen that there's a pile here.
I don't know if that was my horse.
No, we've done a few here.
It looks too small, actually. The gauge of... Anyway, we don't need to know that.
Let's not go into that.
It's a large animal. Now here, we're talking about markings. He's got a white leg, but he's also got a black mark there.
Oh,
and that's
okay.
called an ermine mark.
Oh, right.
Like the fur.
Yeah. And is that so that's a distinctive mark?
That's a distinctive mark. He'll have that all his life. And the same with the markings on the hoof. He'll have always look like that.
Yeah. So obviously, what's on the floor? They're shavings, hoof shavings.
Yeah, that's pieces of his hoof.
Oh wow.
Yes. It looks like Parmesan cheese there. But
Oh, look at this. This is a beautiful pose. Look at that. That's very fine. The other thing, of course, I immediately notice is that the farriers are wearing what in a Wild West movie is called chaps. Is that what?
Yeah. Do you call them chaps?
Yeah, they are chaps.
Yeah.
They are chaps.
I mean, I've got chaps for riding, which are longer.
Yeah.
Yes. When I go out riding in the summer, I just put chaps on top of my shorts.
That's fascinating. Also, the tools, the different tools. Look at these files, great big files, obviously, because it's for filing down the horn and shaping and stuff, and great big clippers that look pincers, basically, giant pincers.
Yeah. Well, they've got to get the shoe off, the old shoe off, do some serious filing, which you can see is going on here.
Yeah.
And then sort of whack it back on. And there's a forge somewhere that's not working at the moment, but they've got a portable forge in the van there.
Oh, okay.
And then they shape the shoe.
I love the stand, the tripod stand.
Yeah.
And of course tripod because it's completely stable. If it had 2 legs or 4 legs, it'd fall over.
Now, the Romans had shoes,
Yeah.
but they used to tie them on.
Oh yes, now I've seen something about that. Yes, that seems like, wow.
It's a bugger keeping things
I
on if you
bet
try
it
and tie
is.
them on the foot.
Just tying them on, that's crazy.
Yes, and they used to change them according to the kind of ground conditions, so they'd have some for mud.
Oh, I see. So what advantage does, apart from protecting the hoof, obviously, you know, in modern times you can imagine it if you're on roads and concrete and stuff. So what advantages in an environment where there weren't knuckled roads so much would having hooves for your horse do?
Eat shoes.
Yeah, shoes for your horse. Hooves aren't optional, shoes are.
Well, they protect the feet from being worn down, and also, as I said, if they've got a kind of slightly unbalanced way of moving, it can sort that out.
Right.
And you mentioned earlier about how the shoe only fits around a small amount of the hoof.
Yeah.
Modern shoes can actually come in quite a lot of different shapes and do other things like inserts in human shoes.
Oh, okay.
So, well, you do get some that actually go all the way round, and they're an O shape.
Right.
But that's modern shoeing. That probably wouldn't be
Okay, not
to your
traditional.
wargamers, no.
Right.
But yeah, it basically sort of helps with wear and tear. Whenever the horse is moving, it's wearing its feet down.
Yeah.
It's designed to just amble about a field, not doing very much. As soon as you make it do work, you're increasing the wear and tear. Some don't need shoes at all, and some really do. It sort of depends on the individual.
I'm going to let people listen to the weight, the power when he puts his foot down. Just that thump on the ground shape.
There's a lot of horse there.
What's... Hello, Byron.
That is a chestnut.
That's a
it's
chestnut.
It's a bony protrusion. They have them on all their legs.
Right.
On the back legs and the front legs.
Yeah.
It's...
Is it a vestigial toe?
No, I'll tell you
It
what.
holds their legs together when they're a foal.
Yeah,
inside the mare, so they can't move. So it
Seriously?
holds their legs like that.
And
my God.
And so it must separate quite late on. Is that right?
Yeah, when they come out, it's very soft. So it literally just breaks apart as soon as they come actually
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
out the mare.
Wow, the things you learn when you actually come to somewhere where there's real horses.
So that's called a chestnut.
Now, Byron is he a dark bay or is he actually black?
He's a dark bay, and his colour actually changes throughout the year because he fades a bit in the sun.
Because there's that video about the household cavalry horses that the BBC had done where they were exercising on the beach at Norfolk, in Norfolk, and someone had mentioned to me, oh, I thought household cavalry horses were supposed to be black, and you mentioned to me, oh, it's probably because actually they are black, but they faded a bit.
Yeah, they go kind of
sunshine.
chocolate brown colour.
Yeah.
So we're filming this at the beginning of August. He'll continue to go paler.
Oh, really?
The summer, yeah. And then when his winter coat comes in, he'll go jet black.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So during the winter they're at their darkest.
It's not that, it's when his summer coat comes through as well. It comes dark.
Okay.
So it's when the coat growth first comes.
Right. Okay,
You asked about whether he was dark bay or black. Another thing that makes him dark bay, if all his body was like this and all his nose, then he would be regarded as black. But he's actually got this brown coloration on his muzzle. They call it mealy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that means he's a dark bay.
There you are, these tiny little claws.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I'm just standing here and looking at the muscle on this beastie. He's obviously, look at him shivering to get rid of the flies and
Yeah,
things.
but that's how sensitive he is. It looks like I need to help out the flies. Should I help?
Yes, you go ahead. Hello, Byron. You're a beautiful fella. He's great. I love the great big cheeks on them. Beautiful creature, aren't you, Byron? Hello. His facial marking, that's a blaze, is it?
Oh, I'm standing here.
Oh, right.
And you probably can't see me over the top.
Yes, Roz is down there.
That's how big he is.
He's a big boy.
So yes, facial markings.
Yeah.
He has. This is actually a bit unusual. It's a star stripe, the vet told me.
Oh, right.
It's a star stripe, and he's also got a little white marking here between his
Oh, he
nostrils.
has, isn't he?
And that's called a snip.
So that's a snip. Oh, you can barely see that in the shadow. Fabulous beastie. So this is the sort of size that the household cavalry horses are, aren't they?
He's actually a bit bigger.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're sort of...
He'd be an officer's horse. I was told this by someone from the household cavalry.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay, because they tend to be sort of 16 hands and up, is
yeah,
that
they're
right?
probably about 16.2. It's quite unusual to get one this big.
He's a fella. It's also, I mean, looking at that shape, there's Roz falling over my own back, but it's you can see the power in those shoulders and that neck muscle. It's actually, compared to my those drawings I did of horses, there's quite a pronounced dip actually. Is that a normal thing, or is that a breed thing, or?
Bit of all sorts of things actually. Partly his age, his back has dropped, as they call it, because he is absolutely ancient.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any more muscle for riding anymore. When he's being ridden, he'd have a lot more kind of here.
Right, got you.
And here and over his rump. He's still not bad at all.
Yeah.
And by the way, this marking here is because he was out in the rain at night.
Oh, I
It's
see.
usually a lot more like this.
Yeah.
But yes, your drawing was quite interesting. One of the things it had was quite a dip here.
Right.
And as you notice, he's actually much fuller here.
Yes, absolutely.
That's one of the things that I said your drawing looked as if the horse is really important.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that happens.
I see.
Their skeleton actually goes sort of in a curved shape. I think it goes, I can't remember exactly, but down like this. So there's quite a lot of muscle.
Oh, I see. Right.
Now that is bone. Oh, and he's going to get twitchy, aren't you, darling?
Bless him.
And
So that's actually shoulder blades up there, is it?
They don't have shoulder blades.
Well, I know, but I mean, just kind of the equivalent, I suppose.
It's actually this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's the point where you measure them from, because it's the highest point that remains constant.
Gotcha.
Because they can lift and lower this.
Yeah. But that is a fixed point.
Is the fixed point that is high. So you measure them from the highest point of their wither, which is there. This is the wither.
That's the wither.
And then the saddle sits sort of here.
Yeah.
Like this. And he has got a very baroque back.
I was going to say, it does look that.
It made it quite difficult to get a saddle to fit in. Saddles are a complete headache for every horse person,
right?
Because they need to fit the horse really well.
Yeah.
No two saddlers will agree on what fits and what doesn't, and the horse changes shape as you work it. because
Gotcha.
it sort of puts muscle on, takes muscle off.
Yeah.
So saddle fitting is always a regular hassle.
I bet.
And
Yeah, take us through. I mean, since you're starting to mention parts, I mean, the head's obvious. Except
Yes.
the bits, obviously, the mane is the bit behind the ears.
This is the
And that's the
forelock.
forelock up there.
What else do we need to know? Those are his cheekbones.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the jugular groove. That's where the jugular vein is.
Oh, okay.
It always gets pointed out on parts of the horse drawings. Yeah, so obviously the neck. This is often known as the crest.
Gotcha.
This is his chest.
And that's really prominent. I mean, is this is muscle? Wow, I feel that.
Is, and that's a horse who's not working. When he was in
Wow.
work, he was much more
Very, very
big.
muscular there, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's his shoulder there.
Yep.
That's his elbow.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you ever wanted to listen to his heart, you'd find it in there.
Gotcha.
This is I'm remembering my anatomy now. This is knee, but that's actually on us. That's the wrist.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's got lots of little bones
Yes, because
inside.
what he's standing on is actually like
He's
the tips of his
standing
fingers.
on that toe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the cannon bone, which is these bones, and quite a few of them fused together.
Oh, okay.
And something that horses often get, you might have heard the term splint.
Yes.
Splint bones are vestigial bones down the side of the central bone.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and they sometimes get inflamed with work, and they cause pain. And you can see they develop a little lump. He's
Yeah.
got loads of lumps and bumps because he's so old.
Bless him.
They're all arthritic changes, they're quite normal ones.
Yeah.
But anyway, they get these lumps and bumps, and so you hear lovely old horsemanship kind of terms like splint and spavin,
Spavin.
windgall.
Now spavin. Now I was looking that up for something that someone. Yes, if someone's sort of, doesn't spavin also mean sort of cowardly in some way?
I don't know, but a spavin I think tends to be in the back legs.
Oh right,
I'll
okay.
come on to
We'll
the
come on
points
to
of those in a
spavins.
bit. But anyway, you can get splints here. I think you can get splints in the back leg, but
Right.
as well, but I can't
Okay.
entirely remember. You can get windgalls, which are
Wow.
puffy swellings.
Right.
They often get puffy sort of joints,
Gotcha.
especially down here. Again, that's just signs of wear and tear.
So we're at the fetlock.
This is the fetlock.
Yep.
This is the pastern.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go in a bit closer to see that.
That's the heel. We do call it a heel. We don't call it anything else.
Oh, right,
It's a
okay.
normal English word.
It's a heel.
Hi. And the hoof, obviously.
Yeah.
And let me show you another bit of the hoof that we didn't go into.
Yeah.
Come on, boy. That's the frog.
Oh, all right.
And that's quite soft. And you have to be careful. Sometimes you can get tree branches and things of sharp pieces of wood stuck up there. We did that once.
Oh, okay.
And the frog is sensitive.
Yeah.
Although it's reasonably tough, but it is quite soft.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it acts as a shock absorber
Oh, right.
for the leg. It also helps pump blood.
Oh, really?
It's got a little kind of pump in there every time the horse's foot hits the ground. it
Oh,
pumps
that's
blood.
amazing.
And it's grip.
Right.
And you were asking earlier about why they have shoes. Another reason they have shoes is it gives them better grip.
Right. Okay. That's
So,
good to know.
yes. So where were we?
It's quite interesting what I'm doing here. I've noticed he's been giving me a couple of looks to say what are you up to.
So
Back at the withers, yeah.
This is just this spine, really.
Yeah.
And it's usually on a horse that was younger and didn't work, you'd have a lot more covering here.
Right.
His ribs are in there.
Yeah. Huge rib cage.
Huge rib cage. His stomach is probably somewhere here, and
Yeah.
the lungs sort of go round it, and then the intestines are all kind of ravelling inside
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
This is the croup.
Yep.
This sort of area. I'm being a bit vague because it's a long time since I've looked at the diagram of parts of the horse. This is the stifle.
Oh,
You might have
okay.
heard the term stifle.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
It's the kneecap.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Of course, yes, because the way a horse. That's the kneecap up there.
That's the kneecap up there. So there's a bone. I think the femur goes up like that, and then
Oh my
the
God!
hip, this is the point of the hip.
Yeah.
So that's,
of course.
That's the hip.
Yeah. So we have to, if we sort of trace the angle, so it's actually kind of donk like that.
Yeah. And you can probably figure out that would be the heel.
Yeah.
And that's actually the hock.
Right. So when people buy ham hock,
yeah,
it's
yes,
from that.
Exactly.
So the cruppers.
A crupper is a piece of tack.
Oh, is it? So it's nothing to do
with,
with the part of a horse. Okay.
You see, a crupper is a strap that goes down the back,
right,
and then loops
round the
tail, and it's to keep things in place. Sometimes they are used on riding horses. If it's usually round fat ponies,
right,
a crupper helps to keep the saddle in place.
Oh, I see.
And you also see them on driving harness.
Right, and you often have seen them on kind of military tack. There's often a crupper.
Oh, they often have a lot more extra things. Yes. So that's a crupper. Back to the anatomy for a moment. The hock has got lots of little bones in it as well, just like our heel does. And again, you've got the structure of the long bone, little vestigial bones down the side, and the fetlock, and the heel, and the pastern.
Yeah. Is there a special name for the furry bits behind the leg?
Of course there's a special name. There's a special name for everything in horse.
Not just floof.
No, they call them feathers.
Oh, okay, that's sweet.
If he was in full work and I was doing posh things with him, I'd trim those off so his legs would look quite elegant.
Quite smooth and... Okay, so the furry feet are feathers.
Yes.
You like that? And obviously there's a little thing, not a very little thing at all, sticking out from underneath him because he's a stallion.
He's not a stallion, unfortunately.
Oh, right.
I wish he was.
Right.
Because
he used to be.
Yes, although, no, that's actually...
Yes.
You ain't seen nothing.
No, I'm fortunately, and hopefully today we won't. But anyway.
What else could I tell you? The tail actually has a bone, and it goes all the way down to the bottom of your dock. It's there.
Oh right, okay. So when they dock a horse's tail, they'll cut it to that length?
No, they don't.
Oh, they actually cut through.
Cut the bone. It's a horrible thing they used to do.
Yeah, they used to do that a lot to military horses in the kind of 18th century and before. Yeah. Presumably to help just keep things clean.
God knows why, but it's a horrible thing to do, and it deprives them of their natural fly risk. And as you've seen from the number of flies he's been getting rid of,
absolutely,
it's something they need.
Yeah, and actually it's not too bad here today, surprisingly, considering the weather.
Well, he's got fly repellent on.
Oh, really?
It's one of the things that you find.
He's a fabulous beastie, and we're surrounded by a couple of other fabulous beasties as well.
Did you want to ask about the colour of this one?
Yes. Let's talk about the colour of this one. This is a grey, obviously, and they start life born black. Is that right?
I don't know about that actually.
Oh right. That's what I always heard.
Yes, but they tend to go paler throughout their life.
Gotcha.
So when he's much older, he'll be much lighter.
Oh, I see. Because actually, you can see in his muzzle. Hello there. Hello. You can see the muzzle.
Skin.
Yes. There's the. Let's have a look there. The skin underneath there. Hello. Yes. Have a sniff. That's good. Coming close to the camera, actually. Thank you. Underneath, that's very dark, and so you can see it's actually the hairs building up on top that are white, and there's this. So it's a bit dark to see, but you can just about... Yes, that's good angle. We see the dappling there.
Yes. Now the dappling is that spotted effect, but he's also got another effect that we were talking about, which is quite interesting. Which is he's got chestnut-coloured hairs and grey-coloured hairs and white-coloured hairs, and that's roan.
Gotcha.
So he's actually a dappled grey roan.
Wow! And actually, you can see under his cheek here.
Yeah.
Look at all those different colours.
He's got more of them.
That is... Yes, there's a lot of sort of browniness going on there. Hello, you're lovely. What's your name?
He's Archie.
Archie. Hello, Archie. And the eyelashes. I've always loved horses' eyelashes. I think they're beautiful things.
Yes, he's got very white buns. Sometimes, if you put them in, if people take them in showing classes, they actually put mascara on them.
Oh really? Oh my goodness me, mascara. Hello, you're lovely. What's the other thing that I'm interested in is if we look at his mane, it's quite stiff actually. At that length.
Yes, he would. The manes just grow like weed, so you have to keep them trimmed and thin them out. Byron's is almost dreadlocks now.
Yeah.
But I've just let his grow. But again, when we were doing posh, smart things, I'd keep it thin so that you can then plait it, and then he looks very elegant indeed.
I bet he does. Fantastic. I'm just going to walk around the other side of him again, just to give him a wideish berth. You don't want to kick from a horse, do you?
But look how big he is. It's like standing under a bridge.
It's extraordinary. Because I ought to point out that Roz is 6'7". Now, how tall are you, Roz?
I'm 5'6.5", and allow half an inch for my shoes.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And actually, that's another point about measuring horse heights. You allow half an inch for their shoes.
Oh, okay. What a beastie. That's fantastic. All right, I think we can probably take a break from that there, because if nothing else, my shoulder's achy now. So thanks for that bit, Roz. That's absolutely fantastic.
Well, I'm going to put him back in his stable now because it's lunchtime. So shall we go over there?
All right, yeah. I'll follow you with the camera, with the stable. Whereabouts is his stable?
It's round.
Right, I'll get my bag. Gosh, horse in motion coming up, because this is the other interesting thing, seeing the gait of a horse, the way it actually walks, is something I've always found. I wish you were here, folks. The thump when he puts his feet down is quite extraordinary. Oh, look, this is this horse, Roz. Is it technically an albino?
Yes.
Look at that.
Pink skin.
Pink skin. Hello. Hello, 48. And look at those eyes and ears. Very pale. Hello. Oh, you're beautiful. You're a beautiful grey. Hello. Hello. I can't see you in a minute. Oh, I've lost Roz and Byron. Look at that. And there's the boy. Hardly seems appropriate, with his hay bag.
Hay net.
Hay net, beg his pardon. Hay net. See, everything's got its own jargon.
It has got its own jargon.
And
yes.
horses have got more than most. Here it is. Let's have a look inside. So, what is actually standing on? This is straw?
It's not. It's quite a modern bedding. It's hemp.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But this that you can see here is hay. There's a difference between hay and straw.
Yes.
Do not have your horses eating straw.
No.
I mean, they do sometimes.
Hay
eat
is
it.
grass.
Hay is
Straw
grass.
is from wheat, isn't it?
There are several different kinds of straw. From barley or oats or wheat.
Okay.
But straw is generally used as bedding. And there are situations where it's useful to feed it to the horse as well.
Right.
And you want to know what that is.
Yes.
That's some kind of. It looks a bit like breakfast cereal in a big sort of, you get them in these big sacks.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've got quite a lot of different feedstuffs in. So some roughage like bran, maybe some oats, maybe some other grains.
Gotcha.
They evolved to eat just grass.
Yeah.
But most working horses can't survive just on that. Little ponies often can.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's another pretty.
And that's another one I used to ride. That's Chester, the ginger ninja.
Beautiful. So would that be a chestnut?
He is actually a chestnut roan because he's got quite a lot of white hairs, and you can see under his tummy he's
Right.
got white hairs, and he's got 4 white socks.
Yes. Someone told me that if you've got a white sock, does it mean there's a weakness in the leg?
No.
Or is that just
No.
an old wives'
There is an
tale?
old rhyme. I can only remember the first bit of it.
Yeah.
Because only the first bit is applicable to me. Because he's got 1 white sock. And anyway, it starts, 1, you keep them till the end. 2, you sell them to a friend. And then there's 3 and 4, and I can't remember what they are. No, I don't think there's any weakness. He's never shown any particular
right, that's
weakness
interesting.
in the white leg. An interesting thing about weakness and strength is thoroughbreds have denser bones and denser muscles.
Now that's even though their legs look spindlier.
Yeah.
Oh, now that's fascinating.
Thoroughbred is often mixed with other breeds to add a bit of quality, and then the rougher breed adds a bit more common sense often. Common sense and robustness.
Got you.
So his breeding is he's an Irish hunter.
Right.
I don't actually have any papers for him, but we guess from the look of him that he's mostly Irish draft.
Yeah.
Because I know he was bred in Ireland.
Yeah.
Mostly Irish draft and some Irish thoroughbred.
Got you.
Earlier we were talking about that very baroque wither he has.
Yeah.
That's quite a thoroughbred thing to have.
Oh, is it
that,
really?
that tall, sharp wither. And thoroughbred adds quite a lot of characteristics as well as the strength of the bones. You get a denser bone for the size.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And you also get horses that, this is purely my own experience, but horses that have got thoroughbred in them have got much more stamina.
Now that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because of course I'm thinking the people who are going to be watching this, military horses obviously need a lot of stamina and that kind of stuff. So would there have been deliberate breeding programs to introduce that kind of factor?
Yeah. And quite a lot of horses that are bred today have got some thoroughbred and sort of something else. And there's a breed now called Irish Sports Horse, which I think has got thoroughbred plus something else. There are a lot of Irish horses that are shipped to this country because they're really good all-rounders.
Yeah. I mean, traditionally the British have got their horses from Ireland for centuries, haven't they? Military. I mean, the British Army got its horses from Ireland because, of course, so many of the aristocracy had vast estates in Ireland and bred horses over there. So yes, it was. I imagine there was quite a lot of fiddling of the books as well, because you get a colonel in the British Army who also had estates in Ireland and who also bred horses in Ireland, and then surprise, surprise, sold horses to the British Army. Yeah. Cushy little number. Nice job if you can get it.
I think the army call those Irish blacks, don't they?
Yes, for the household cavalry they do.
Yeah. And another lovely thing about them is that they have very nice natures.
Yeah. Oh, he's lovely.
He's a pussycat.
Big softy.
Yeah. Except if you're a vet. I've always been surprised by how the vets actually have him on a red list.
Oh, really?
Which is be really careful.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So.
Bit like me at the dentist. I don't blame him. Well, thank you, Roz. That's been absolutely fantastic. I think we can probably take a break there. But of course, the star of the show, Byron. Thank you, Byron. Oh, there we are. And he's coming out to say thank you. Yeah, you're a star. Messy eater. There. So we'll leave him eating his lunch. And my final question: how much does a horse like him eat in a day?
He'd probably eat about 30 pounds of food.
30 pounds of food. Okay. Oh my God. This is not a cheap hobby, is it, Roz?
It's not the feed that costs, really. It's all sorts of other things. Vet.
I bet.
Vet.
Bless his heart,
really
especially
expensive.
with him.
But yeah, they do need to eat constantly because they have small stomachs, great big guts.
Yeah.
They evolved to, as I've said
grazing
several times,
animals,
just graze all the time. So their guts need something in them all the time. And one of the things about managing a horse well is to keep the level of feed right so that they don't get digestive problems.
Gotcha.
They're really fragile. It looks like a bruiser, but it's very, very fragile. All these foodstuffs we give them that aren't grass, you have to introduce really carefully because they aren't designed to eat them and digest them. They have to acquire bacteria in order to digest them, so you have to make any feed change very gradually.
Gotcha.
Well, this means if you're role playing, is it's very easy to do this wrong.
Yes, I can imagine.
So there are limitless possibilities for something going wrong with the feeding of a horse. And for this to
so for an army,
trouble.
for example, where they know they're going to be perhaps invading another country and travelling somewhere where they can't count on the food being the same or the grass being the same, obviously that's why they ended up with huge supply trains and wagon loads of hay from home.
Yes, and I've just told you how much one horse eats in a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, supplies are major. Water as well.
Yeah. So you think about that, folks. You've got a regiment of, say, 400 cavalry. 400 heavy cavalry, and that each horse is eating 30 pounds of food a day.
Now he's enormous, so it would probably be 25 to 30 pounds of food a day. It's got to be carried somehow.
Yeah.
By more horses.
I know exactly. That was the thing I did. I did this calculation once about how many wagons you would need to carry the fodder for one cavalry regiment for 1 week, and then of course you've also got to feed all the horses that were pulling that food, because they were draft horses
and they're doing hard work,
so they're going to need probably more food, and it just ended up being hundreds and hundreds of wagons that you needed just to feed, and it was just an extraordinary logistical exercise.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you, Roz, absolutely fantastic. I'm sure the guys are going to be thrilled.
Do you want yet another fact, a really important fact about feeding?
Go on.
Which is that you mustn't exercise them on a full stomach.
Oh, right. So it's a bit like your mum saying you mustn't go swimming after you've just had lunch.
Yeah, you could give them something, you could cause impactions in their gut that might well kill them.
Oh my God.
It is that bad. Yes.
Wow.
So so a regiment would be very strict about feeding and being very careful not to do anything for an hour after.
Wow.
Now they can eat hay because they eat very small amounts all the time.
Or if they were just grazing.
Or just
okay.
grazing, yes.
But if you've actually given them a meal,
you have to be
fodder.
Really careful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that's, I can see the scenarios popping up in my head. Somebody knows that, right, they won't be able to ride them for an hour after they fed them, so we've got this window where we could do something terrible to this cavalry regiment.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I had that Dragon Warriors book I pointed out, where I've written a whole piece about the use of horses in games.
Yeah.
I wrote about a scenario where some people had to escape from an inn or something. They had to get their horses, but they'd just been fed.
Oh no!
What you could do is walk slowly.
Right.
But
it's not quite the fast getaway you need.
It's not the fast getaway, but it would be really tense. It would be really tense. But not only that, if they spook or something and they all just go doolally, which happens, then you've got to pull them all back and do what you need to. So
God.
Really tense situation.
Yeah.
And it's just because of the way they're plumbed.
Wow. Amazing stuff. Gosh. Thank you, Roz, again for the third time.
Keep trying to get rid of me.
No. And I might come back to you later for some stuff, or I'll put some stuff in the show notes and stuff, because there's just so much. They're just beautiful creatures, and thank you for showing us around, and thanks for introducing us to Byron.
Pleasure. Okay. Yeah. Henry, you're now going to run round in a circle. Yes. So run. I'm going to stand here. Run round me.
Run round you?
Yeah. Go on. Get up. No, actually, run sort of one, two, 1, 2. Go quite fast.
Oh, blooming heck. Steady on.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting this.
Now, can you feel that your inside leg is working harder?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you can stop now. That is the basis of training a horse, of training its muscles. You ride it in figures, which are usually curves or straight lines, and they put weight deliberately on certain parts of the horse's anatomy.
I'm going to take that and turn it around, because you're gesturing. You put weight.
So that puts weight on certain parts of the horse's anatomy. It puts weight on the leg on the inside, and that is weight training for it.
Ah.
So you ride figures that that make it work harder with one leg, and then you change to the other direction, make it work harder with the other leg. And
so hence the figure of 8 is a really useful...
all those figures, all those curves that you ride, all place that extra strain on one part of the body as you felt when you were running around.
Wow. And actually it's true. I won't turn the camera around and show people. My inner thigh suddenly... It might be something to do with this surface. What is this? We're in a dressage thing here. What is this surface made of, Roz?
I believe it might be made of carpet fluff and peat or something.
Yes,
and I'm not joking, it is something like that. Surfaces for riding arenas are actually quite technical. They look like they're just ordinary sand.
Yes, because from a distance it looked like mud or something.
It's not. It's actually quite a technical material, so that it's got enough give so that you can do high impact work, as aerobics people would call it. And not damage the horse's joints. But you don't want it so soft that it makes it a lot harder. So you need a bit of spring to it. So it's
actually
technical.
I've got to say, it's really interesting to run. It's quite tiring. Also, the other thing is how warm it is in here, not just because it's a sunny day, but I would imagine this stuff has some kind of insulating effect as well.
It probably does, but you're surrounded by stables as well, and all those horses are producing heat.
Oh, that's fascinating. There we go, folks. Now, this takes me back to seeing things like the Spanish riding school in Jerez in Spain, where they have all those wonderful white Andalusian horses, and they're doing the funky military dressage. Just absolutely amazing. What's the other ones? The Lipizzanas in the Austrian riding school in Vienna.
Yes.
So there we go. Roz, I should get you to do some dressage, mate. Anyway, thanks for that 5 minutes. We'll turn it off there. Okay, everyone, here we are in the tack room now, or probably the ante-room of the tack room technically. You can see over Roz's shoulder there's the room behind where everyone hangs up bridles and helmets and blankets and goodness knows what. And most importantly, saddles. And this is Roz here, cleaning up, soaping up Byron's saddle, which is just a beautiful object in itself. And I'm going to come in a bit closer just to show you this wonderful pattern on this leather, which is actually buffalo leather. You were just telling me?
Buffalo leather, yes. They're not all made from buffalo leather.
So what's special about buffalo leather as opposed to cow leather?
Two things. It's got a bit more grip.
Right.
So this has got this lovely sort of skin effect here, and when you first buy a saddle, they are really, really slippery.
Oh, I see.
And this was softer and it had a bit more grip.
Right.
Also, buffalo leather's stronger. Buffalo leather's often used for stirrup leathers because these are stirrup leathers. So,
right. That's the stirrup on the bottom.
The stirrup on the bottom.
There you go. It's surprisingly heavy. That certainly weighs a couple of pounds, isn't it? For sure.
Yeah, it does weigh a bit. Yeah. Well, they're steel, and those have got springs in the sides as well.
Oh, really?
Because that gives you a bit more cushioning. Gives your joints a bit more cushioning.
There you go. I've never looked this closely at a stirrup before.
Yeah.
Actually. So that's really interesting. That the buffalo leather, and of course. We're talking about kind of American buffalo type leather?
I really don't know. I don't know where they get it.
There's various types of buffalo, obviously, because there's the buffalo that wander around in India as well, and there's the buffalo in Italy that they make the mozzarella cheese from their milk. Mozzarella di bufalo.
But this saddle is actually a dressage saddle. If you come round here, you'll see that it's quite straight down there.
Gotcha.
The other saddles tend to be cut with a bigger flap here that curves like that, so that you can put your knees in. But if you're riding dressage, you actually want a longer leg because you want the leg to come down like this.
Roz is gesturing with her feet and legs there. Now that's really interesting. So
you have different riding positions for different kinds of riding.
Right. Does that also mean that it's more difficult to ride the horse on a dressage saddle?
It depends on the activity you're doing with it.
Right.
It would be quite difficult to jump in this.
Right.
Because it's got this big, this is the cantle, and that's the pommel.
Right.
It's got this big cantle, and as you go over a fence, this will tip you out.
Ah, so that's the thing that sends you flying over the horse's head.
It might do, yes. And also, when you're jumping, you have shorter stirrups, so your knees will be more like that.
Right.
And you need somewhere to put them. So
and
have
a
different shapes.
jockey on a racehorse, it's another thing again, isn't it? They have really short stirrups, don't they?
Really short stirrups, and they also have very minimal saddles that
right.
Probably for the weight, because you want as little weight as possible.
Yeah.
But also because they just have very little to them. It's really just a frame for the stirrups.
Right.
And just the smallest, thinnest pad to sit on.
Gotcha. Wow. Now also, whilst you're kind of getting some more soap, I want to point out to people, guys, do you recognise the wooden thing? Which is called
It's a saddle horse.
A saddle horse. Well, I'll tell you where I recognise it from. Several engravings from 18th century period, British Army, Prussian Army, because they used to tie a cavalryman's hands behind his back and sit him on one of these, which you can imagine, if you look at the point there, that would be quite painful quite soon. And I'm sure I've seen engravings where his comrades would come up and smack him with their riding crops or whips or something as well, as a form of punishment, maybe for desertion or cowardice or whatever. So yes, that's because I looked at it, I thought, God, that's screaming at me. It's come straight out of an engraving. But there you are. That's what I also think of when I see this, which is apposite. But anyway, the shape of the saddle, I'm really interested to see about the actual structure of the saddle there, Roz. I mean, so I presume there's what, wood or metal or something underneath that creating the shape?
It's got a metal frame inside which follows the line of the pommel here, and then it has two bars that go like this, and I think they make the cantle here.
Right.
And then there's webbing on top of that to make the seat.
Gotcha.
And these bars here, that the stirrups are attached to, they're part of the tree. It's called the tree.
Right. Okay.
So that is actually what it looks like.
Right.
That metal, and then the rest is all leatherwork that's built up. If you want to look at the underneath.
Yes, please. Also, point out before you turn it over, on a Western saddle, of course, it's got a much more prominent pommel.
Yeah, you have the horn. It's got the horn,
because you wrap your lariat and around it and that kind of stuff.
Well, there's a totally different style of riding, and the rider's in a totally different position. The horse moves in a different way. The way they're instructed is different.
Gotcha.
So this is distinctly English style.
Yeah.
Now underneath.
Well, okay then.
We have. Again,
oh
this
wow!
is,
you can feel how stiff.
Yeah.
But that's leather. But it's like
leather.
1/4 inch thick leather.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this has got to. This has got to
so
withstand
it's like
serious
the
forces.
kind of leather that they would use to make armour back in the day.
Yes.
And in fact, that kind of stiffness feels like what the Romans would have called quirboli, boiled leather, which comes out really stiff.
Oh.
Yeah.
This has got a bit of mould on it. It's just something that happens because it hasn't been used. This saddle probably hasn't been used for 2 years. So a few cobwebs too.
Pattern. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful object, isn't it? So this is in contact with the horse's back, or you might have a saddle cloth.
Okay.
But anyway, it's like a leather sofa.
Yeah.
So it goes on the horse's back, and this is a channel that takes the pressure off the horse's spine. You want to make sure that it doesn't touch the horse's spine.
Oh, I see. Now that's fascinating. So actually, when you put the saddle on, you kind of imagine that the horse's entire back and spine and everything's taking your weight, but actually you're deliberately keeping the weight off the spine by spreading it to either side.
Yeah. So this puts the weight on the muscles, which are much better equipped to carry the weight of a rider.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And at one time I used the household cavalry saddler, and they said that when a man sits on one of those cavalry horses in all his gear, he probably weighs about 20 stone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, assuming he doesn't weigh 20 stone to start with.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so you know, it's got to fit well. It's got to really suit the horse.
Yeah.
They don't usually consider whether it fits the rider, and in my
Right.
case, I found that having a very big horse and being a reasonably little person,
Yeah.
it took a while to find a saddle that would fit
Oh,
me.
yes. Oh no, because my one riding experience, well, proper riding experience, was out in Spain. Anne and I went to stay at a place in Spain called Cortijo el Peso, and they had horses, and you know, like a proper Spanish ranch. And they gave me lessons on this dear old mare called Candela, who was very round. And I certainly was aware from the word go that it was not designed to fit me. I had to fit it.
Wide horses are a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. I ended up with terrible blisters because I didn't have proper riding trousers or anything. So that's not. Yeah, that was a sore memory. Anyway, so this is a fabulous saddle. You were going to show me something else
because
here.
this is where you attach the girth. Now, because this is a dressage saddle, these are long.
Yeah.
If it was a general purpose saddle, as they're called, or a jumping saddle, then these tabs would end here.
Oh, I see.
Probably, and the girth would be much longer. But you attach the girth here.
Yeah.
This is your safety, basically.
Yeah.
It's really important to check these. So if you've got your cavalry people, their saddlers will always check. They'll check all the tack anyway.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that you do.
And of course, this goes under Byron's tummy.
That goes, yes, it goes under the tummy, like that.
Yeah.
So
Yes, a number of sort of where they do comedy westerns. It's where someone's forgotten to check to tighten the girth or whatever, and they end up with the saddle upside down, kind of thing.
yeah, and in fact, a friend of mine, the friend who owns the Ginger Ninja,
Oh right.
had an accident just from that very cause.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Really?
it's so easy to do. She mounted, and the saddle started slipping, and it's
Oh my God.
really it's
Scary stuff.
Yes, and it just shows that you have to just check everything all the time.
Yes, it's very it's surprisingly technical. Actually, there's a lot of checks and stuff that you need to do. Same as if you're about to take off in an aeroplane. Really.
Yeah. And you've got the stirrups, as I said.
And of course the stirrup at the moment you've hitched it up out of the way for stowage.
Yes.
And normally you just pull on it and it
You
comes
pull
down
on
like
it,
that.
it comes down. You also have it like that to stop it catching on things.
Yeah.
You put it on the horse like that so that they don't bang on the horse's
Yeah.
sides, because as you can see,
Yeah, it flaps
It'll
around a
swing.
lot. Yeah.
if you lead a horse through a stable door with them like this, it could get caught, and then the moment a horse gets caught, it panics.
It panics.
So yeah, we keep them up there for lots of very good reasons.
Wow, that's a gorgeous thing. And that's a blankety thing you're holding there.
This is a numna, which is probably an Indian word.
A numna.
Numna.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There are also saddlecloths. The difference is saddlecloths are straight, and this a numna is actually cut to the shape of the saddle.
Oh, okay.
And what he's also got is this, which is a riser pad. I don't know if your cavalry people would have this kind of thing.
Well, what they often did have was a sheepskin or something underneath.
You might get sheepskin.
Yeah, and they would often have it with
Probably
a
something there.
fancy edging on it,
Let's go
Van
in there and I'll
Dyking
see
or whatever.
if I can find some other things to show you.
It's gorgeous. Right, let's
This
follow
way.
Roz
Follow me.
into the tack room. Follow me. It's just a wonderful thing.
Right, so
What do you
sheepskin.
move out of the way?
Here's sheepskin. It's actually a girth cover, but
Oh right.
it's
Yes.
soft.
Yeah.
Some horses have really sensitive skin, and
Yeah.
so you just, by a matter of trial and error, you find out what suits them and what they're allergic to, what they can't stand. When you buy a horse, you usually end up trying lots of different things and then having to sell them on eBay. So your particular gear is always really important to you, because it's the stuff that you've realised suits the animal and you, but mostly the animal.
Yeah. So it's moulded to you as a pairing, effectively.
Yes.
I noticed there's a saddle there with some sort of fluffy stuff sticking out with a blue cover on there.
This one?
No, the next one up.
This?
Further along. No, other way. Away from you. Down, middle. Yes, there.
Oh yes. That is a seat saver.
Right. Oh, is that what it
Because
is?
some of us have sensitive bottoms.
And I imagine that applied to a lot of cavalry as well.
Yes, actually, I've been on riding holidays where we've ridden all day, and even people who are really used to riding were crippled by the end of it.
I can imagine.
And we were using seat savers and padded shorts and everything.
I can imagine.
It's quite grueling for your bones.
I was going to ask you about this. When it comes to a horse's stamina and well-being, what proportion of the day would, say, a cavalryman actually be riding the horse as opposed to walking it or resting it? What would be a sensible thing for them to be doing?
Well, usually you figure on exercising it for an hour.
Right.
And then the rest of the time you're grooming it.
Right.
Grooming is very important for keeping their appearance, but also health. The health of their skin. You can check whether they've got any cuts.
Right.
It's also a bonding process.
Yeah, of
with
course.
the horse.
But so, if you read reports of where there's cavalry have been marched all day, and a long day at that, this is already detrimental to the horse.
Well, you'd have got it fit enough to do that,
Right.
but you'd probably. It depends. I don't know how practical. I don't know how the army practically marshals this, but you might well have one day of a long march and then an easier day the next day.
Right.
You'd make sure the horses are fit enough for doing that.
Course,
but I don't know what they did in the past.
So I'm thinking in extreme climates, you'd have to be really careful though. So perhaps particularly, I'm thinking of like the Peninsular War in the early 19th century, where you're in southern Spain and it's blazing hot. You'd have to have horses that could withstand that kind of environment.
Yes, well, they would have been chosen for that, really,
Right.
and they wouldn't have got through the training. So it would be like a process of natural selection, probably.
Right. Okay.
But to give an example, the riding holiday that I went on,
Yeah.
we rode for, I think, 6 days.
Right.
Some days were short trails, and then there was one day that was 30 miles in one day.
Right.
But we only did one day like that.
Gotcha.
And then the following week, the horses would have to rest. Then they'd be on again for the week after that.
Right.
That would be considered hard work.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Another parallel is hunting. When horses were kept for hunting, they would if they did 2 days hunting a week, that's hard work.
Right.
And so the other days they would probably have just a short ride to keep them loosened up, maybe do something like a bit of schooling. You wouldn't always do schooling every day.
Right.
That would be like doing weight training every day, but it's good to have some weight training.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you do the schooling, then that helps with their athletic ability.
Gotcha.
It gets them just generally stronger. Again, it helps bond them with the rider. It gets them more obedient. So ideally there would be ways that you would manage the horse's exercise routine. But if you're actually on a campaign somewhere, I should think you'd just be thinking, well, we've got to get our campaign done, haven't we, guys?
Because in the Napoleonic Wars, the French were notorious for overdoing it with their horses, and the horses ending up with saddle sores and things.
Oh, saddle sores are just you try and minimise that. I was talking earlier about the saddle fitting the horse.
Yeah.
One thing that you and also the variations on tack that you try before you find something.
Gotcha.
Often you'll find a girth starts to rub, or a particular kind of nose band on the bridle starts to rub or just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So you always watch for saddle sores, and sometimes they're inevitable, but you have to be really careful and treat them, because they just get worse and worse and worse.
Gotcha.
It's like only having one pair of shoes. If they give you a blister, they will keep opening that blister and you'll get a festering wound.
So a saddle sore effectively is a kind of blister?
Yeah, it's a rub. It's just a rub.
Right, okay.
But they would take very careful notice of them and try to make sure they didn't happen again. So if it was in the girth area, you'd try and swap to a different girth, or you might even just have to give the horse a few days off while it healed. So it's very, very serious. It interferes with their usability.
Okay, now that's an important factor, you see, for war games. You know, if you're trying to get a full regiment of cavalry to a destination 100 miles away in hot weather, and you need to really get there as quick as you can, you might not arrive there at full strength at all because of problems like that.
Or you would make sure that you had people who were completely on top of it.
Gotcha.
So your saddler is very important.
Yeah.
For repairs, because you need repairs done quickly.
Yes.
If you go to any show, any horse show, you will find that some of the most important people there are the saddler, who can do a quick repair for you or sell you a new piece of kit that you've broken.
Right, yeah.
Or a farrier. There'll often be a farrier.
Yeah.
Or one who can be called at short notice to come and sort something out. And then a vet as well. So these people would be very important, I should imagine, to a cavalry.
It reminds me of when I was doing my medieval reenactment. In between every bout, you'd get guys riveting things back together, fixing broken buckles and straps and all sorts.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the armour looks glorious, but like all this stuff, there's a lot of delicate stuff underneath that can break and snap and dink, and it's important. You know, you could end up getting killed if your armour doesn't work properly. So having workmen on hand or your own skills to bash dents out and that kind of stuff, pretty important. So now that's fascinating, Roz. Thank you for that. We're going to look at bridles and things, aren't we?
Yes. Now
there's a wall of them there.
There's a whole wall of them. I could show you putting a bridle on.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
And then I can talk you through bridles.
That would be fantastic. So I'm going to pause for a minute, folks, and we'll get back to putting a bridle on Byron. 3, 2, 1, go. Here we are with Byron again.
Yeah.
At the stable.
And now we're doing the bridle lesson. Before we do the bridle lesson, there's another fascinating thing I was going to say, which is that his ears are very mobile and he can see all around. Yeah. And wherever his ears are pointing is where he's looking. Ah. Yeah.
So if you make a model and the ears are pointing somewhere else to where he's looking, is wrong.
And he turned to face me anyway. But yeah, so he's got one eye looking in one direction, one eye looking in the other now.
Because
he can do that.
They're plains-dwelling beasts.
Yeah.
So actually being able to sort of see to either side almost 360 degrees, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So he's got a blind spot behind him, where his neck is.
By the tail, actually.
Oh, right.
By the tail. And one sort of about, I think it's about here.
Okay.
So, yes.
But look at those ears. The ears are fascinating. Hello, Byron.
The ears also tell you a lot about their mood. So if their ears go flat back, then they really don't like something. Right.
He's interested at the moment, isn't he?
He is, yes. If his ears are forward like that, he's interested and comfortable and
happy.
Big
gentle boy. Look, he's big gentle boy. Look at that.
I'm going to see if I can get this on him.
Okay, this is bridal time. Now, B-R-I-D-L-E. Yes. Not the D-A-L, which is to do with weddings, people. A horse's bridle is not bridal.
It certainly isn't. I might not be able to get him to open his mouth.
That's
because he's very old and sometimes he feels like going out and sometimes he doesn't.
That's fine.
If he was much younger, I would not take any nonsense and I damn well make him open his mouth.
Right.
But
he's an old
30
boy, bless him.
And I need him to tell me sometimes if he's aching.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this will work, but
it may not.
So the reins?
The reins go over the top. And the reins are long, obviously. Yeah. And here we go. And that's the bit at his mouth there, which he may or may not.
Yeah.
Good boy, good boy. Good boy.
He is very good to bridle.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you very much.
Sometimes when he's particularly eager, he'll just dive into it and I actually have to kind of line it up and he just sticks his head in.
So what's important I want to point out to people is if you see, hello darling, the bridle that we're looking at, it's right up in the corner of his mouth.
Yeah.
So this is why you should never yank on a horse's reins.
Well, what it does is, he's lovely. He's salivating already. You want the horse to salivate over the bridle, over the bit, so that it's comfortable and it's lubricated. Some don't, but he likes this.
Yeah.
He's already saying, "Oh yeah, I'm comfortable with that. That's
Yeah,
nice." Yeah. It actually rests on a point where there are no teeth.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So he's got molars at the front.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah,
Horse
molars at the
dentistry.
front.
Hello.
Yeah, he's really old, so the teeth have got a patina.
Yeah.
And then there's a gummy bit there, and then there's a load more teeth that go all the way up in here, like a crocodile.
Because they're for chewing the
grinding,
grass. Yeah.
yes. So those are incisors, and those
Molars.
I said molars for that, but actually those are the molars, the grinding teeth. So the bit actually rests on a piece of skin and gum, and they're called the bars of the mouth.
The bars of the mouth.
of the mouth.
So there's a noisy track just before. That's the bars of the mouth.
The bars of the mouth, and it's a sensitive area. The bit acts partly on that, the bars. It also acts on the tongue. You can probably see there's a big tongue in there.
Yes, yes.
So the bit acts on that.
I think that people can get quite a good hello.
Yeah. It acts on the corner of the mouth as well.
Yeah.
So all sorts of parts of the mouth that the bit acts on.
That's fascinating.
This is called the throat lash, and
the throat lash.
Throat lash. Sometimes throat latch.
Okay.
You do this up so that the bridle stays on.
Okay.
This is the nose band.
So that's interesting. So the sole function of this is just to keep the bridle in place.
Yeah.
So it's not used for guiding the horse at all.
No.
Okay.
And this nose band.
Because what I'm also noticing is that's quite slender. That's quite a slender piece of leather.
Yes, yeah, they are. Well, they might be thicker on military bridles or other styles of bridle. This one's quite slender. This is the nose band. Nose bands have an effect on the way the bridle acts on the horse.
Right.
The horse's head.
And I know in the modern household cavalry, often they have a sheepskin bit underneath that to cushion it more.
It might cushion it more. Sheepskin, sometimes you see racehorses with big fat sheepskin nosebands.
Right.
And they will obscure the horse's vision if it puts its head up too far.
Ah, I see.
So it naturally brings its head down, thinking, I can't see.
Oh, that's interesting.
It learns. And there are all sorts of devices that influence the position of the horse's head, because that influences how controllable it is.
Gotcha.
Sometimes if a horse can put its head right up like that, you can't control it.
Gotcha.
And this weighs a lot.
Right.
You don't really have much strength compared with a horse. Everything you do, I mean, even a little one, everything you do is actually about using things like leverage and cleverness.
Yeah. I'm actually interested almost in the geometry of this arrangement here, the way that these... It's obviously just over the top of behind his ears there's, hi darling, there's just the one strap.
It's actually two.
Oh, is it two?
Yeah, because the noseband.
I see. It's just that one's underneath the other, so it looks like one was actually two, and then you can see the two of them coming out here.
So that's that cheek piece. It's the top there, and it's also this strap. Look.
Right.
This is called the brow band. Again, it's mainly decorative. You can ride without them, but it does keep it in place. It stops the
and certainly most military horses I've seen have them, because often there might even be some kind of emblem or something on the forehead.
That's where you'd put insignia. The noseband, you'll see quite a big variation in nosebands. Probably not in the military, because they just tend to one size fits all. But this.
Yeah.
I tried riding him without it because he managed to cut his nose, and I couldn't stop him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a break.
It's what it does is, I mean, they all have different ways of trying to evade. They're called evasions when they don't do what you want.
Right.
And what he did was open his mouth.
Right.
And if he can open his mouth, the bit doesn't do anything.
Oh, of course, yes.
So I had
There's another detail that's just occurred to me. What you were doing just there made it absolutely clear that this, hang on, let me get over here, this is separate to that.
Yeah.
Because when you see a miniature that's been sculpted, it's hard to tell. Oh, is that all joined up together? So that's actually a critical detail, that this is a completely separate piece of leather to that one. Look, there's the gap, folks. There's the gap.
Yeah.
So that, I've just learnt something. I've just realised that.
And bits, they're very individual to the horse. This one it's got a loose ring. It's filthy, by the way. Sorry, chaps. Military people, you'll probably want to put me in jail. It's got a loose ring. Sometimes you have bits that are solid here.
Yeah.
And there's always a joint here, but they're solid. But this loose ring also means he can't get hold of it so easily. I did try riding him in one that was solid. They're called egg butts. This is called a loose ring.
Oh, okay.
And again, I couldn't stop.
Oh my goodness
Because he
me.
just took hold and went. So you find the bit that suits your horse.
Yeah.
And this is also, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but
Where am I
it's got
looking?
a joint. It's jointed, and it's got another joint. You can open your mouth, darling. Or maybe I'll show it to you when we take it off.
Yes,
But it's got,
so.
his mouth is quite shallow at the top, so his bit has got an extra joint in the middle.
Oh, I see.
But you also get bits that have just one joint, like this.
Oh, I see. Right.
And his has
okay.
got an extra one in the middle. But that sort of can poke up into the roof of the mouth a bit.
I'm with you.
So you find whatever suits them, and
Yeah.
if they're happy with the bit, then they'll probably be happier about doing things for you. That said, in war situations, I read a bit about medieval bits, and that was really interesting. They had much more severe bits,
Oh, okay.
probably because of the kind of conditions they were under.
Right.
And you find this also with more exciting horse disciplines. So for something really calm like dressage, and you want them being as cooperative and submissive as possible, and you want this beautiful harmony between horse and rider, so you use the mildest bit possible.
Right.
And that is, people have often said, the bit he's got there is so mild, it's basically fresh air.
Right, okay.
But if I was doing something like cross-country with him, which is much more exciting, and where people get really excited and quite hard to control, I would use something with a lot more braking power.
Right.
And then you've got bits that will not only act on the mouth, but they can put pressure up here.
Got you.
And via levers, and that's what this does. So I don't know if we should try and get it on him. This is a double bridle. It is actually for dressage, but you get versions of these for hunting.
So this has got two reins.
It's got two
I'm
bits.
just about to ask you about
Two
that.
bits.
So it's got two bits as
so
well.
Look, you've got one bit like that,
Yeah.
and then another.
Right.
And this is quite a brute.
Yeah, that's a big, solid
That's big.
lump of a thing.
So
and also, now this is, see this a lot on military bridles, where you've got this bit sticking down underneath. Am I pointing in the right direction there? Because people see that, it's a bit sun reflecting off my screen here. But yeah, can you see that, guys? That you'll recognise from French Napoleonic cuirassier type bit, heavy cavalry bit, really typical that kind of shape. As opposed to this, which, as you say, is very gentle and
although I still had to find a noseband that would make it effective, because otherwise he would just.
So having the double rein effectively is like having a better set of brakes.
Yes, and you can have all sorts of variations of different kinds of bits, and even different nose bands. And there was a horse I used to know at another stables, and he had a bridle peg that said brakes. and it was actually a mixture of quite a severe snaffle bit. This is a snaffle.
Oh right, okay.
And a bitless bridle.
Right.
So, which put pressure on the nose, basically stopped him breathing.
Right. Oh my goodness
That
me.
was what it took to stop that horse.
Wow.
So
wow, that's pretty severe.
You've got a huge amount of power at your disposal.
Yeah.
And I think he is pretty much unstoppable.
I was going to say, because he's such a big horse, he must be more than 1 horsepower. I would have thought.
Yeah, I've been in situations where riding lessons where things are going wrong. Big male instructors got on him and have not been able to do any more with him than I could.
Oh my goodness.
Just because, you know, it's a very big, strong animal.
Yeah.
You ride a horse with a relationship.
Of
really,
course. Yeah.
With brute strength. But this, I don't know if I can put it up against his head. You see, there's the nose band,
Yeah.
brow band.
Yeah, look at that.
That would go there. Well, it's probably
Yeah.
go there, and then that would poke down quite a lot.
Yeah.
And that puts pressure because this is a great big lever.
Right.
And you've also got this, which goes.
We've got helicopters, cars.
You've got this curb chain. This is called.
Curb chain.
It's a curb chain.
Right.
That's a CURB.
Yeah.
Because this is a curb bit.
Yeah.
And it has this chain that goes in the chin groove there.
Right. Okay.
And that adds to the leverage. So that puts a lot of focus on things that you might be telling the horse through this part of their body,
Yeah.
and it means they can't ignore it as easily.
Yeah.
But they also have gentle uses as well.
Yeah.
You can use quite a harsh bit for brakes and for sort of asserting yourself in very exciting situations.
Oh, right.
But you can also use them for fine control. And horse people might be looking at this and saying, "But Roz, that is actually a double bridle. That's not a very severe bridle." And yet, so
Right.
this is actually a version for refining the way the horse carries himself.
Oh, I see.
Because these two bits have different actions. This raises the head
Gotcha.
and acts on some bits of the horse's mouth. And
Right.
this encourages him to lower it.
Oh, I
And
see.
so you get a balance by, you can suggest ways for the horse to move which put it in sort of in perfect carriage, as they call it. So it's
Got
like
you.
Pilates. It's saying use
Yeah,
this
yeah.
set of muscles, not this set of muscles. You can gradually make it aware of the way it's moving and
Yeah.
adjust the way it's moving.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
that's what this kind of bridle would actually use.
And I'm also noticing here at the obvious thing that actually on this one there's 3 layers of leather
Yeah.
at the top there.
Yes, you need one cheek piece for each bit.
Right, of course.
Yes.
So instead of on the other one you had
One
2
bit,
straps, that
2
one's
bits.
actually 3 bits.
And the nose band.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic, Roz. Thank you so much for that explanation. That's been really fascinating because I know, because I've been one of the people trying to paint miniatures and thinking, okay, did the sculptor even realise what he was sculpting? Or has he done it from a picture? You just don't know.
Yeah.
So that is fantastic stuff. Thank you, Roz, and thank you again, Byron. I'm going to take another break then.